Well, good morning. Again, my name is Chuck Beach, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Brantford-Brant Earth Week Committee. The committee was formed in August of 2007 with a specific purpose to promote, encourage, and sponsor some local environmental events on or around April 22nd, which happens to be Earth Day, and to catalog local events. The Earth Week Committee is made up of a number of important partners who work together to develop these events. And it's all about Earth Day, April 22nd every year. And it was founded by a US senator from Wisconsin named Gaylord Nelson in 1970. And it was designed to inspire the awareness and appreciation for the Earth's environment. So today I'm going to focus on two subcommittees of the Earth Week Committee. And one is the School Ground Greening Committee, and it orchestrates the greening of school grounds. And the other one is the Brant Tree Coalition that arranges for the naturalization projects through the planting of trees. So this is the school ground greening, and we're starting hope to be starting our 14th projects shortly. And we've done a number of schools, and I'm going to go through them one at a time and highlight some of the things that has taken place. So the purpose of school ground greening is to increase environmental awareness and stewardship and provide shade protection from UV radiation. It does increase the quality and diversity of play. It improves physical and mental health. It has been shown to improve student behavior. It is increased enthusiasm for learning and enhanced teacher motivation and willingness. So the first year was our really get-go, and it was at Ryerson Heights Public School. And the principal there at the time had started looking at school ground greening, and we provided the funds for him to purchase and plant 30 high caliber native trees. This was the schoolyard before we began. And what's really interesting about Ryerson Heights is that it's right next to a forest. And so when they developed the schoolyard, they cut down every tree and had a blank check, which maybe doesn't make the most sense in the world. And hopefully things should be done differently. At any rate, we had a celebration. We planted 30 high caliber native trees. And by high caliber native trees, I mean thick trees that the kids can't break too easily. And when I say native tree, it's a tree that's been here since the last ice age. So in year two, we discovered this foundation called Evergreen that resides in Toronto. And they have consultants that work with schools in developing their plan. And so we were able to establish this partnership with Evergreen. The Evergreen consultant worked with the winning school that we chose to develop a school ground greening plan. And the offer was made to all public and separate elementary schools in the city. And we covered the cost of the Evergreen consultant, the project manager, and additional seed funding. And Evergreen had developed very specific design guidelines for schoolyards, and it was funded by Toyota. So we had this school ground consultant working with us here in Brantford. And we sent this note out to all the principals in the city of Brantford, inviting them to make a submission to green their schoolyard. And what was offered to schools? We offered a landscape architect to help develop the plan, up to $9,000 in seed money, and assistance with fundraising and promotion. And from the schools, we expected the school to form a greening committee consisting of the principals, teachers, parents, and students, establish regular meetings to consider designs, assist with fundraising and promotion, hold a kickoff celebration. And once trees were in the ground, the commitment to water the trees for at least 2 years. So year 2 was our first go, and it was in this now in partnership with Evergreen. And the Evergreen consultant told us that we had a classic 1940 to 1980 yard, which means that it was asphalt and you fenced them in. And he called it the Army style of schoolyard. And so we had a meeting, a kickoff meeting, and this was the result. The school is very small and the project was small. It's in a area of lower socioeconomic, and fundraising was difficult that year. But we provided a little outdoor classroom and some greenscape. In year 3, we went to Bellevue School was the winner, and this was their schoolyard. The playground for the kindergarten students was actually on the Tarby next to the school. And that's what it pretty much looked like. And we had a celebration and we changed things. We added trees. And this became the playground for the kindergarten area. And those trees are rather large right now. In year 4, we changed to countywide, and our school was Sacred Heart. And I have to believe it was an old farm field. And what's always interesting with the older schoolyards is at one end of the schoolyard, you'll have a soccer post. And at the other extreme far end, you'll have another soccer post. So it's a full-on size soccer pitch. And I imagine if the kids ever scored a goal during recess, it was a phenomenon because the size of the pitch was so big. And there was the beautiful kindergarten play area. We had a kickoff meeting, ceremonial tree plant, and with help from our friends from Lowe's, we made a change. And that was the new kindergarten area with a sand pit for the younger ones to play in, and it also served as an outdoor classroom. James Hillier School in year 5, again, the open area with soccer, huge soccer field. We had an opening ceremony, and that's what happened. They were a tremendous group to work with, and we put in smaller soccer pitches, mini soccer pitches, so that more kids could engage in the game. In year 6, Grandview, that's Grandview from overhead. And there's a soccer net right here and a soccer net right here, and not much else going on. There's the wonderful huge soccer pit. That was the kindergarten play area. And it was interesting because it was tarby, and as you can see, fenced in. And one of the things that we do know is that on a warm summer day, about 30 degrees or so, about 2 feet above the ground, the temperature is recorded somewhere between 45 and 50 degrees C. So we were really roasting the little ones. We had an opening celebration with the mayor at the time, ceremonial tree plant, and then we created an outdoor classroom. That was the new kindergarten area. And out here, there's actually a platform for the kids to perform plays on, and a trail, of course, leading out there. Holy Family in Paris. There's your soccer net. It's over here. Nice and far apart. And there was the beautiful kindergarten play area. And we had a ceremony. And that's what we developed with their support. And you can see the buckets there. They're used to water the trees. Huge sand play area. And opened up with a folks from Lowe's built a platform in the kindergarten area. Kids thought it was pretty good. And then we were off to Russell Reed in 2015. Soccer post at one end, soccer post at the other end, looking from one soccer post to the other soccer post. Opening ceremony, that's our school ground greening consultant, David Wendland. Ceremonial tree plant, and we started to transform things, adding paths, stone seating, trees. That's the new kindergarten play area. Jean Vanier, that's the front yard of Jean Vanier. And that was the kindergarten play area, nicely fenced in as always. Developed a plan. The school came up with a brochure. This is drone footage of the school for our opening ceremony. Ceremonial tree plant. And that's before and that's after. So we added things like stone seating, mulch, trees to play, trees. Out in Burford, they had the same great usual fenced in yard with a few stones in it. And they came up with a plan, a brochure, started construction. 2017, Princess Elizabeth, soccer posts, nice and far apart. And we always convert soccer fields into mini soccer fields so that more people can participate. And this was the opening ceremony and the tree plant, and the kids put on a little show, and that was their beautiful garden that they had. And so we started construction, and we ended up with something like this in the fall. That's a late fall picture. St. Gabriel, that was the kindergarten play area, and that was after we finished. We added some garden and the stage over here. Woodman, that's just a finished picture there. And now Notre Dame, there was their kindergarten play area. And Notre Dame, we took 2 years to do because of COVID. We didn't offer the program for 1 year because we really didn't have the opportunity to do much of the development at Notre Dame. And that's what it looks like today. And so this fall, the kids have come to a whole new, greatly expanded area, and they've added a storage where they can keep their toys and amusement things, and quite an improvement, and the teachers really love it. So that concludes my portion on school ground greening. This year, again, we're on our 14th year, and we hope to be able to transform another schoolyard. Turning now to the other subcommittee, the Brant Tree Coalition. Initially, it was an industry-led coalition. Today, it's a partnership that includes industry, students, local government agencies. And we undertake naturalization projects by organizing community tree planting events. Trees provide important services. I think most of you are familiar with these. There's more and more evidence that trees provide a benefit to mental health, and they reduce stress. And I think we always knew about their environmental benefits, and more important than ever before with global warming and the fact that they take up carbon dioxide and they cool the earth. But the social aspect is becoming more prevalent. So we've arranged tree planting projects in the city of Brantford. And in 2005, which predates the Earth Week Committee, the Brant Tree Coalition joined the Earth Week Committee in 2007 as a subcommittee. In 2005, the Brant Tree Coalition began with the Apotex tree nursery planting. And then 2006 to 2011, we rode at Sinclair Boulevard, and I'll show you that in a moment. 2011, Brant Park, and in 2012 to 2016, the project I'm going to focus on today is the new forest in the city. In 2017, we did a stormwater management pond in the Northwest Industrial Park. And in 2018, 2019, we planted the land adjacent to Brant Park. And so with all of these plantings, initially it was just industry. In 2006 and 2011, it was industry, but we started to have high school students. And then when we started doing the new forest, as you'll see, we had everybody going to the new forest, all different groups. We've been having projects in the county also. And because it's the county, we have to move around to the different areas. And so we were in Paris, we were in Burford, we were in St. George, and back to Paris. So here we were talking about the very first year of the Brant Tree Coalition, and it was started by a gentleman named Jim Berhalter at Apotex. And so in that very first year, 2005, Apotex had a vacant spot across from their factory on Spalding Drive, and they planted a nursery of about 200 trees, and there's Mayor Hancock at the time. And this was the result. And since that time, over 200 trees have been moved to community parks. After that, we were looking for a place to plant, and this is Sinclair Boulevard, and this is Garden Ave, 403. This is Sinclair Creek. And for 5 years, we planted about 5,000 trees a year along this creek. And that's a picture from 2007. It was mostly industry people. Then we started involving in 2008 high school students. 2009, you know, on Earth Day, you never know what the weather's going to be. Sometimes it snows, and sometimes it's very hot. So that's 2010. And we were getting about 300 high school students helping us. And in those years, we did Sinclair Boulevard. There wasn't really much public participation. And in 2011, I mentioned we were out at Brant Park. And that is what this area of the park looked like before. And that was during with high school students. And I don't know if you can see all the white little tree guards there, but that was after. Unfortunately, I have to admit that that tree planting wasn't very successful because we had a very dry spring. And so we were looking for a place to plant in 2012, and I was sitting down with the urban forester for the city of Brantford. And we were looking at the map of the city and we were wondering where should we go, and then we saw this here, which was right across from Sinclair Boulevard, 403, Garden Ave. And we had a closer look, and we noted that there were one stream, two stream, three streams running through the property, and eventually joining Sinclair Creek and into Fairchild Creek and into the Grand River. What we knew is that it was farmland and that it had been farmed since the 1850s. And the city bought half of it in 1970 and the other half in 1990 to create what they called Bonita Phase 9 Industrial Park. So we met with the city and we said, you know, the urban forester arranged the meeting with all the different departments. And the result was, they said, if you plant within these green hash marks, you're good to go. So we came up with a plan called the New Forest in the City. 5-year plan, create a new forest in the city, 78 acres. In total, 50,000 native trees and shrubs. We plant 10,000 trees a year, plant primarily during Earth Week. It was a major environmental restoration opportunity. And the corollary was that it was a walkable community forest. And the reason we were able to plant this area and not have it subject to development were the fact that there were 3 creeks there and there are setbacks required under provincial law. And many of the slopes were very steep and there's steep slope regulations. So we divided the area up into 5, plan to do 1 area a year. And this is what it looked like before the tree planting started. A little bit of erosion up there in the bank, but low scrubbed grassland with the creeks running through it. What we noted is all the creeks had fish in them, what was interesting. So in 2012, we had 6 events. The Pauline Johnson has a very special environmental class called the E3 class. And what we had them do for the 5 years was come out ahead of the tree planting and clear the area of garbage prior to tree planting. The Rotary Club had a tree plant. We had a public tree planting event. We had a high school event. In the fall, we had TD has the TD Tree Days where they invite their employees and their friends to plant trees. And finally, what TD paid for and was left over, we had North Park students come out and plant. And we pretty much did the same thing every year for 5 years. So this is the very first year, and this is the Pauline Johnson very special environmental class called the E3 class. And they collected garbage. So that's in the furnace. That's what they ended up with from the one area. And then when the Rotary Club came out, and they actually had a picnic out there, which was pretty cool, catered by the Sherwood Inn. And then they had a ceremonial tree plant and they planted some trees. And then we had the community tree planting event on Earth Day that year. We promoted through posters and the community came out. We even had a little t-shirt developed. And then we had the high school event. And we were starting to get numbers up around 400 to 500 students each year. That's actually the management committee at SC Johnson's doing a pose with high school kids in the background. In the fall, we had TD Tree Days. Lovely time of the year to plant because everything is so colorful. And then we had North Park students come in and do their thing. In 2013, we didn't do anything different. That was the Pauline Johnson cleanup. A little muddy that day. You know, I should mention that the E3 class, while they were participating on this area close to Henry Street, a young lady named Linda Moyer let the kids have their lunch at the Habitat for Humanity office. Got a little dirty by the time we left. And that's what they collected that year. This is the high school tree plant. And 2014, something a little new. Safety Clean and Keith's Walking Floor paid for cedar hedge around their property and their fencing. So this was the E3 class. And that's what they ended up with. And we put in some bird boxes. The E3 class did. They put in about 20. And every year, the swallows come back to the New Forest, usually the 3rd week in April. And there are a lot of tree swallows. And again, it's just an amazing phenomenon. They come back every year. And I'm just going to see if this is drone footage from this year. This is a meadow area where the bird boxes are. So it's just an amazing phenomena with these birds coming back from Capistrano every year. The bank stabilization, the E3 class put in slivers of dogwood and willow to stabilize the banks. Oops. Now, we always tell the kids to wear boots because you never know what the conditions are. I think we can wreck a pair of Nikes in no time. So that was in 2014. So we mentioned about two factories that put cedars around the perimeter of their properties that border on the New Forest, and that was Safety Clean and Keith's Walking Floor. So Safety Clean, the employees put in 2 rows of cedars, and actually the Rotary Club put in the cedars around Keith's Walking Floor. Then we had the North Park Fall semester. I'm skipping a few things because it's repetitive. In 2015, we had the usual, but we did something new. We started putting in bridges across creeks so you could move from one area to another. We worked with Cahoon Engineering to do this, and that was the result. 5 bridges, all the same. In 2016, which was our last major planting at the New Forest. Since then, we've done infill in areas that didn't take so well, but this was the last major go. So New Forest update, over 63,000 trees have been planted on 78 acres. There's a trail system mapped out and cut by the city. 5 permanent bridges were installed in 2015. It's not promoted, it's open to the public, awaiting groom pass and signage. This is the actual planting map, and you can see the years that the various areas were planted. And here, the purple are actually 2 meadows, and that's where the bird boxes are. We wanted meadows for those species that prefer meadows versus forest. What's this cost? Well, if you look down the bottom line, somewhere between $70,000, usually around $50,000 to plant to have the events and plant the trees annually. And this was paid for by the Brant Tree Coalition through various fundraising efforts. So to me, it's a case of build it and they will come. The animals now, there's reptiles, snakes, at least 2 varieties. I saw crayfish in the creek. Fish, many species. We actually had the Ministry of the Environment, I think it was, did a electrofishing and identified species. Birds, there's many species. Mammals, rabbits, mice, moles, deer, coyote, insects, and arachnids. There are ticks in there, and mollusks, snails. And can you see the praying mantis? My daughter took this picture on last Sunday. This is a new resident who's just shown up. Little nervous about this one, so we'll have to see. And this is what it looks like today. And some of the trees are having babies, which is just wonderful. That was a picture I took yesterday. It's the sugar maples are starting to change color. that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Chuck, it's my honor to